Namandavas, 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 namandavas. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's December Shotsuki Hoyo for Monterey and Bodhi Day celebration. I hope you're all doing well, healthy, and safe. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, today is going to be broadcasting from the Tri-Temple YouTube site, so everyone can hopefully join the service. If you're being contacted by some members who are trying to find the site, have them do a search on YouTube for Cent, that's capital C-E-N-T, capital C-O-A-S-T, space, Tri-Temple. Because of the spike in the COVID pandemic, we'll be conducting services remotely and streaming to this site until further notice. As of today, we're planning to stream all services on the Tri-Temple YouTube site. As I mentioned, today we'll be commemorating the Bodhi Day for the day of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment and also the Monterey Shotsuki Hoyo Memorial for December. Please open your butsudans, light a candle, and burn some incense as we begin today's service. I'd like to begin with an opening reading. If you please join me in Gassho. Dharmakara, the Bodhisattva, during his causal state, being in the presence of the Buddha Lokeshvara, and having examined the causes of Buddha's pure lands, and the good and evil of those Buddha lands and human realms, he established the highest, most excellent vow, and brought forth the rare, great, universal vow. Namandavas, 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 namandavas. Now we'll begin the chanting of the sutras, beginning with Sambujo, followed by the Hyobyakumon, or dedication reading, and then the Sambutsuge and Jusege. You'll find Sambujo on page 23 of the large purple service book, Sambutsuge on page 77, and Jusege on page 91. And during that time, we'll be scrolling the names of those observing Shotsuki in Monterey. So please, when you see the family name, go to your butsudan and make an incense offering. 来二のToday, on this occasion of the Monterey Peninsula Buddhist Temple, December Shotsuki Hoyo and Bodhi Day service, members of the Sangha have reverently come before Amida Buddha in memory of their family members. With deepest reverence and thankfulness to the all-embracing wisdom and compassion of the Buddha, we reaffirm the three homages. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butz, Namo Kie Ho, Namo Kie So, Naman Navus, Naman Navus, Satsu Murya Jingyak Kongen Gigi Ijin Ngognya Ze Enmyo Murya Tosha Nijigatsumani Shuko Enyong Kai Setsu Onpe 윤약주 먹은열 영엔 저세물인 성악나이영 거르지보 가이몬셔진 산마이지에 이덕무려 슈셔케 의진다이젠넨 셔부즈 호가이 그진진너 그공가이 다이머며 여그느 세선여문인너 시시 진덕무려 그근고다이 지혜진명어며 이서 신도 나이센강가 사부즈 자이쇼 홍가 도쇼지 미북에 다츠부세조이 가이는 쇼진 요새 산마이 지혜 이조 고세 도그부즈 흑여시간 이사이 이사나이안 개식 어부트 약센너그만 머려나이셔 슈녕어자 그여 이사이 시도셔부트 분여그더 겐셔북약 인영어자 셔부세가이부북하게 머시세츠더 검여시셔 헨시셔 거그녀세 셔진 이진난려령아사붓 거그너 나이에 치거시 기며 너저저세츠 거그녀 나이연 니무도서가 도와이면 너다츠 이사이제 보라이셔 신나츠 쇼저 이도가 거그 게라그 완농 거부신여세가 신셔 호츠간너 히르기셔역 제뽀세선 지혜무게
よりょしそんちがしんよけりょしんししょくのくちゅまぎょしょじん天寿不敬어건저 생안 이시무저너 시간 부만석 세부저성악 가오무려거 부이나이세시 부사이쇼빙거 세부저성악 가시저부츠노 묘셔저제보 극염이셔몬 세부조성악 리역진셔넨 조회슈봉여 시금의저도 이셔텐닌시 진느기엔다이고 부셔무사이도 쇼저상금요 고사이슈약난 가이지에겐 매시건모안 해석쇼악노 스다츠센슈몬 고소저만석 이여러제보 니치가스슈주기 탱거 엄북엔 이슈가이호소 고세 그덕호 조나이슈주 세포시시그 그여 이사이붓 그서그슈덕홍 간내시즈조만 덕이상가이오 여부츠무게지 스다츠미부쇼 강가그에릭 도시사이쇼선 시간야고가 다이센오간도 고크쇼텐닌 도진묘계 나만다부 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 난니시근홍의 면허세 이사이 너의혼모 나이신 오녀 안라고 남만답 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 나모아미다붓 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 남만답 남만답
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to ask you all to join me in the Gatha Nori no Miyama on page 224. Nori no Miyama no sakura bana mukashi no mama ni niyou nani michi no shiori no ato tomete satori no takane no haru o miyo nori no miyama no honto to gisu mukashi no mama ni nanoru nani ugyo wa yume zo mijikayo to honorogi samasu koe o kike. Thank you. Now, if you'll please turn to page 10 in your large service book and join me in the reading of the Threefold Refuge. Difficult is it to receive a human form, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha, now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us with sincerity and true reverence take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together with all sentient beings, awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together with all sentient beings, enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together with all sentient beings, become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Sankhya-mon, ninjin ukegatashi ima sudeni yuku, buppo kikigatashi ima sudeni kiku, kono mikonjo ni mukate ga dose zumba, sarani izure no sho ni mukate ka kono mi o dosen, daishu morotomo ni shishin ni sambo ni kieshi tate matsuru beshi. Mizukara butsu ni kieshi tate matsuru, masani nega waku wa shujo to tomo ni daido wo taige shite mujo iwo kosan. Mizukara ho ni kieshi tate matsuru, masani nega waku wa shujo to tomo ni fukaku kyozo ni irite chie umi no gotoku naran. Mizukara so ni kieshi tate matsuru, masani nega waku wa shujo to tomo ni daishu wo tori shite issai muge naran. Mujo jinjin mimyo no ho wa hyaku sen man go ni mo ayo koto katashi, orima kenmon shi juji suru koto etari, nega waku wa nurai no shinjitsu giyo geshi tate matsuran. Nammandavus, 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 nammandavus. Okay, once again, I'd like to ask you to join me in Gassho as I share with you a reading from Shinran Shonin's Shoshinge. on the great sage Nagarjuna. He would expound the highest dharma of Mahayana. Attaining the stage of joy, he would be born in the land of peace and bliss. He disclosed that the difficult practices are toilsome, like walking on land, and urged us to believe that the easy practice is pleasant, like sailing on water. Nam mandavas, nam mandavas, nam mandavas, nam mandavas, nam mandavas. Thank you very much. So here we are in the month of December, and December brings us a lot of things, including the end of the year and the looking forward to a new year. And, you know, almost every year, well, this year not yet, but typically, people will ask me as a Buddhist priest or a Buddhist minister, do Buddhists celebrate Christmas? And it might seem to be a really kind of silly question. After all, we're not Christians, we are Buddhists. However, my response is, yes, we do. We do celebrate Christmas. At least I do, and I know some of my fellow ministers do. I love the Christmas songs. I love that are put on the radio, and it puts us in a very happy and forgiving and loving kind of mood. And White Christmas is one of those songs that I like. I love the movie It's a Wonderful Life. It has a great story in it about Buddhism, really. And, you know, Christianity has many of these great songs and great movies. And in Buddhism, we have Nori no Miyama, we have Ondok-san, we have Namo Amida Butsu, and we've got some great funeral songs, but not so much Bodhi Day songs. But anyway, there are some. But anyway, in December, we do celebrate all sorts of things. You know, Kwanzaa is being celebrated, Hanukkah, the winter solstice, Christmas, the birth of Jesus Christ, and Bodhi Day, and the day Siddhartha became the Buddha. This is an important celebration for us. And all these celebrations, they celebrate life. They celebrate love. They celebrate kindness, community, and compassion. And this is all shared in all traditions. There are differences. However, I think the wonderful thoughts of love and kindness far outweigh the differences. And especially now, in this world today, we need to find those commonalities, not the differences. So Bodhi Day is a celebration to commemorate the day Siddhartha became the Buddha, the enlightened one, the awakened one. The title of Buddha is important and should be mentioned. When asked, "Who or what are you?" the Buddha responded, "I am awakened." In saying this, he is saying, since my birth, I've been sleeping. I've been sleepwalking through life. What does this mean? All of us are not Buddhas. We are unenlightened beings. So as Buddha said, we are sleepwalking through life. This means that we're not seeing things as they truly are. We are seeing only what we want to see. Well, sometimes we may argue with our parents. We may argue with co-workers, with our husbands and wives, with our children, because we want them to see things the way we do. We argue about the silliest things sometimes. What to watch on TV, what to eat, how to drive, where to park, because we know what is best. So we see the world through the lens of self, rather than through other people's eyes. So the story of the Buddha is about his encounter with four gates. He sees old age, he sees sickness, and he sees death. And then he sees the life of a seeker or a monk. But I believe there's so much more to this story than him walking out of the castle and seeing these four incidents of birth, old age, sickness, and death in the seeker. I believe he saw in himself the same things that we see within ourselves. That is a self-centered view of the world, and it's the source of all suffering. So the celebration of Bodhi Day is an opportunity for us to express gratitude to the Buddha for the teachings of the Nembutsu. If you're observing Shotsuki this month, we can thank the Buddha for showing us this truth of life and that we are embraced by Amida Buddha. Most of us credit Shinran, but Shinran himself, he pointed to the Buddha for the teachings of Nembutsu. Now, as many of you know, the Buddha, he left his home when he was 29 years old. And in leaving his home, he left behind the palace, his father, his family, his son, and his wife. He left that all behind, all the responsibilities of the palace and fatherhood. So obviously, Siddhartha did not come to that decision lightly. I believe it was a decision that took a long time, and he did a lot of planning before he left. We might think that he gave up this palace, he gave up his clothing, and then he traded them in for a begging bowl and his robes. An easy thing to do materially. However, this does not speak to the mental preparation that took place. It must have been really difficult for Siddhartha to come to the decision to leave his home and his family. I'm sure it took a lot of contemplation. It took a lot of consideration before he made that decision. In a similar way, only similar, not such a big decision, but when we leave home, it takes preparation, it takes consideration. Over a year ago, Jane and I were able to take a trip to Europe. We traveled to France and to Italy. And the preparation for that trip began a year before. Scheduling, communications with various groups, logistics, what to take with us, as I had to do memorial services there, learning some phrases in French and in Italian, preparing my talks for the many memorial services. And as the day for our departure came closer, there was more preparation. We had to pack and trying to figure out what kind of omiyage to take or gifts to take, taking care of business at work before our departure. A lot of planning. Unlike our planning for a trip, the Buddha's plan was to complete his task of ending suffering or die trying. He was willing to give up his life. In fact, at one point, he was near death as he tried to find the answer to human suffering. Now, I noticed during our trip to Europe, as our trip came to an end, we were in Rome, and we boarded our plane for home. And it was a wonderful trip. It was great. I loved it. But we got on that plane, and there was a sense of peace of mind that we've completed this journey. And it was very relaxing after getting on the plane and coming home. There was a long flight home. We came home, and there was even more relaxed, a more sense of peace of mind. No preparation was needed. We just needed to get on the plane and come home. And I think all of you have experienced this. As you prepare for a trip, a lot of work, both mentally and physically. Once the trip comes to an end, there's that relaxation as you come home. And then you might even think there's no place like home. So the Buddha too, he returned to his home. After he reached enlightenment, he returned to his home. And he converted his family and taught them the tools to end suffering. Whenever you take a trip, whether long or short, it takes preparation. As you come to the temple, you have to prepare what to wear, what route to take. And when you arrive, you're coming home to the home of homes with Amida. No need to prepare, just relax because you are home. So there are two worlds, the world we go out into and the world we come home to. The world we go out into is like going on a trip. It is like the Buddha leaving home. The world we come home to is like going home after a trip, like the Buddha's going to his home. And the home of homes is with Amida Buddha, to sincerely embrace the Nembutsu. There's no preparation needed. All we need to do is recite the Nembutsu, and we return home to the stage of the truly settled. By virtue of the great vow, a great compassion of the Buddha, our birth is assured. Our birth is settled. Your loved ones, whose names scrolled across the screen, their birth in the Pure Land is settled. It is assured. And that's why Nagarjuna, in this opening reading, he says, difficult practice is toilsome, like walking on land, and urges to believe that the easy practice, which is the Nembutsu, is pleasant, like sailing on water, returning home to the home of homes. Thank you very much. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Now, I'd like to make a few announcements. Next week, on December 20th, we're going to celebrate Bodhi Day for Salinas, as well as their December Shotsuki Hoyo. It'll be also on the Tri-Temple YouTube site. And again, I want to show you some, let's see if I can find my note here. Excuse me. There we go. I have to find this. This is our Watsonville Buddhist Temple virtual Sangha. And with the restrictions of COVID, we've had no Sunday services in person, but our temple's open. You can have your image and represent your family virtually. All you have to do is submit a photo of yourself by email, text, or drop it off at the temple. And you can even send a picture of a loved one who's no longer with us. Donations for the cutouts are $50 for adults, $35 for children 12 and under, $35 for seniors over 80. Proceeds from the virtual Sangha will go to our Buddhist Education Fund. An order form is in the current Ichimi. If you have any questions, please call the office. Let's fill up our hondo with a virtual Sangha. Thank you very much. Did I show you that? Okay, yeah, there we go. Now I'd like to read to you, for those in Watsonville who are playing bingo with us, this week's bingo numbers. First number, B8. Second number, I20. Third number, right next to it, I21. Fourth number, N44. Willie McCovey's number. And the last number, 069, the year of my high school graduation. 069. Good luck, everyone. And now I'd like to ask you all to join me in the Gatha Ondok-san 2. Yonai dai no ondoku wa miyoko ni shite mo ozubeshi shishu chishiki no Kitemo shasubeshi. After contemplating for 5 kalpas, he chose the best of them. Again, he vowed that his name would be heard in the 10 quarters. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Please come back next week for Salinas' Shotsuki Hoyo and Bodhi Day observance. Thank you.